the bottom. Here comes Gisette. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Foul trouble. Oh, no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming into the triangle. No, Rocky up and into the air. They're beating and banging. Burn on the bottom. Cosman up top. Cosman, I think. No. Breyer by 1/1000th of a second. Joseph, no. At the line, third horse. Pulls the win out at the stripe. Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Get your foot down. He's got it. He's got it. Canvas is going to win.
Three to go, and we're short track racing on this Thursday night as we roll along in the Road to Pro ladder. We get one step closer to finalizing the top 20 and those advancing on to the Contender Series. But first, we got to get through, well, tonight and all the rest, the other remaining 2 races. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to FTF.GG's coverage of the 4th race of the 2nd round of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series, live from the virtual Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park from Brownsburg, Indiana. Glad to have you along for the ride, everybody. Jacob Pitts, James Pike, Blake McCandless here with you. Justin Malillo is down on pit road. And Pike, this has this almost sort of a vibe of a short track Saturday night, almost what this series was based off of, going to short tracks and just having a lot of fun. But there are a lot of important points on the line for some of these guys that are near that top 20 cutoff. It's dicey back there.
If my memory serves me correctly, I think this might have been one of the circuits that was on the original 1995 NASCAR Craftsman Super Truck Series schedule. I could be wrong about that, but I know it was a place that they visited in the early years of the series, to the point that you just made. And yes, this is an interesting track. It's one that we haven't seen in any capacity in qualifying series, contender series, or the Coke series in a long time. So I'll be curious to see how people operate here. They won't have a lot of notes outside of the few times that the official series come here. And it races a little bit like a mini Kansas in the sense that you're going to see a lot of the drivers go up to the high groove on the racetrack. We're already seeing it in qualifying a little bit. Lots of drivers running that groove just off of the wall, maybe giving themselves a lane from the safer barrier, but it does not run like most short tracks. It runs a little bit differently, and maybe most importantly, this is the last paved short track that we go to in the qualifying series for 2022. We have the dirt track at Bristol coming up in September, but as far as paved short tracks, this is it.
And Bristol Dirt is going to be an experience when we get to that in 4 weeks' time. We head to Darlington in 2 weeks. As James mentioned, Blake, we haven't been here really ever throughout the eNASCAR series. The track just made its return to the Camping World Truck Series this year after taking about a decade off. So the notebook for these guys, it's very thin.
Well, it's very thin, and not only that, Jacob, it's when you talk about there's been a lot of alignment in terms of the schedule with what the official series is running in your Class C fixed series and open series, and what this Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series has been doing. That has not been the case this week. This raced several weeks ago in this series, so they haven't even had the chance to kind of get their reps in, so to speak. A lot of drivers will take the official week to try and learn and hone in their setup and even race against a lot of the competitors they're going to see out there tonight. They have not had the opportunity to do this week. So when you talk about a thin notebook, this is really thin for these drivers who have only gotten their testing in either amongst themselves or amongst their teams and haven't been able to shake it out with a couple of other ones. So wouldn't be shocked if we're going to see some bigger speed differences as a result between these organizations.
And you'll see that again in a couple of weeks when we go back to Bristol Dirt. Obviously, that doesn't line up. The real series ran that back in the spring. We ran the paved version of Bristol throughout the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series back in round 1. Here in round 2, the real world, they stick to the pavement. We go on to the dirt, kind of flip things around a little bit, and it'll add another layer to this second round. Qualifying is, I believe, just about wrapped up. about 30 seconds to go before it is all done. Let's take a look at the points quick before we roll onto our starting grid and everything. Parker White sits atop now. What you're seeing right now is without the drop week. They do have one drop week, so basically what they can do is they can only count 6 of the 7 races that they have run this season. And without the drop, Parker White atop the board, then Jonathan Delaney, Boyd Hogan, Joey Brown, on and on and on down through the list. Some familiar faces, some familiar names in that list as well. And here are the guys that are on the outside looking in, including Alex Bergeron there, 22nd in a tie with Kyle Myers. And then you've got Blaze Crawford, who had a strong run 2 weeks ago at Michigan as well, finished 3rd in our split, sitting just 4 points back.
I think the biggest thing to note at this stage isn't necessarily the points without the drop that you see here. I'll give you the quick math of the points with the drop, courtesy of our friends within the community. What you need to know, from 7th to 32nd in points, there is a mere 21 points difference between that 20-plus group of drivers. So the battle for the cut line is still very much alive at this stage. I don't think we're going to get a lot of clarity on that tonight. It may be until after Darlington before we really have a good sense of who's probably going to contender and who's going to be fighting until the last lap at Texas at the end of September.
Here we go. Let's take a look at our starting grid tonight. Just 31 drivers in this split. There are, I believe, 32 more over in the other split. Omar Diallo will start on the pole. Timmy Holmes will line up on the outside. It's been a rough start for Diallo. He did not make it last week at Michigan. He sits 51st in points, 55th without the drop, but fast time, he'll start on pole position. Tucker Minter, who's been fast consistently this year, he's up inside the top 20. He'll line up behind Diallo. Daniel Falkingham will be on his outside. Christopher Pfeffer and James Wenzel make up row number 3. Boyd Hogan, Tyler Gary in row 4. Jordy Lopez Jr. was leading late, got turned, and then the wheels kind of came off the wagon 2 weeks ago. He's got his teammate Ryan Doucette to the outside, rounding out the top 10, James.
Blake Bottoms will roll off from the 11th spot. 12th on the grid belongs to Colton Salick. Kyle Myers starts tonight from 13th. And 14th on the grid is Michael Cozy Jr. Casey Stucker starts in 15th. 16th is where you'll find Blaze Crawford. Justin Knobloch begins tonight from 17th. Michael Bumgarner will start tonight's race from 18th. 19th on the grid is Kevin King. And rounding out the top 20 is Garrison Hogan.
Starting in 21st tonight, it'll be, if I could get my standings correctly, there we go. It'll be Matt Forcappa. 22nd is Tanner Love. Thomas Keene will start in 23rd. 24th will be Joel Blewett. Shane Williamson will start in 25th. Kyler Wynn, 26th. Daniel Smallwood will roll off 27th. Tommy Goss at 28th. Brian Blackford, the final driver to make time, in 29th. Jake Nichols, Timmy Pacioli will round out your top 31 drivers. So already a little short of that 35 driver mark between these splits. Is 31 starting out tonight. I believe it's 32 in the other split that's running. Jacob?
Yes, sir, and we'll just have to keep our eyes on it. You also have to keep in mind, though, that this happens throughout the season. Numbers just go down where it's, well, we're not going to have a shot to make it, so let's just pack it in, regroup, try it again next year. It's Omar Diallo and Timmy Holmes on the front row for the start. Glad you're watching. 140 laps on the board. Green flag. We're underway from Lucas Oil, Indianapolis Raceway Park. Oh, look out! Sideways and crashing coming off turn number 2. One car slams into the inside wall. Caution flag is out. That's your outside pole sitter going around in big trouble for Timmy Holmes. Starting in second, he goes around, not enough grip on the outside of the racetrack, and he takes multiple other trucks with him. Shane Williamson involved in this, I believe, as well as a couple of others at the back of the field.
Boyd Hogan caught a piece of this as well, and this is entirely Timmy Holmes' own doing. Like you said, just got on the gas a little bit too quickly on corner exit coming out of turn 2 and spun himself right in front of the field. I think it's a miracle that we didn't have more trucks involved in that, but Hogan got some damage. I think there were a few other drivers. Just
Kyle Myers.
Kyle Myers got a good piece of this. Think
It was
that
Hogan that got the inside right there.
Hogan got a lot of it. There's the Myers shot that you see on your screens, just went right nose to nose to Timmy Holmes. So a handful of drivers that get caught up in this, but a really tough break from Timmy Holmes. But also, I think a tale of caution to the rest of the field that you might not necessarily want to push it that hard on restarts because we don't have a lot of banking to work with here. We don't have a lot of grip either.
Well, we have this quick moment. We have a couple of trucks on pit road. Let's introduce the fourth member of our team, Justin Malillo, down on pit road. How are we doing, Justin? Good evening.
Good evening, Jacob. I was kind of saying earlier that I was joking, but I mean, this could completely be the case. Some guys are going to take one pit stop tonight because they can make it about 100 laps. If there's enough caution, some guys might not even want to pit, and then other guys might be pitting 62 times. And we see about 8 drivers on pit road this time, a lot of them fixing damage. It's short track racing. That's what we're in store for tonight. They got 3 sets of tires, and they might use them all. They might use none of them. We'll just have to see how it all plays out.
Just have to see. Shane Williamson looks like he may be done for the night. He actually dropped out of the session on that first lap. So trouble for him. We'll see if he's able to get back. He actually made it through the crash on the back straightaway, but fell out under the caution flag. And it sounds like with Timmy Hill, let me try it again. Timmy Holmes, close. At least Timmy Hill runs iRacing, but Timmy Holmes, Blake, perhaps not as much experience as some of the rest here at IRP.
Yeah, I mean, said he has no laps in testing. So either one, it's a surprise that he qualified that well, and two, you can imagine some of the other drivers who, they put a lot of time into this, into qualifying, into doing all these things to prepare for these races. You can imagine they're none too happy about somebody at the front of the field who just happened to loop it in front of them and may have taken them out of contention.
We'll see what happens here. We have our first restart of the night. Still double file. 5 laps complete. Diallo leads them back. Green flag in the air. We're back underway here at IRP. Tucker Minter slides into second. They're side by side for third. Falkingham and Pfeffer.
Good battle for third now as Pfeffer to the outside. Falkingham trying to clear him to go to the inside. It's Jordy Lopez Jr. working to the bottom of Pfeffer now. They are double file pretty much all the way through the top 15 or so. But Lopez will clear Pfeffer, move him back to 5th. It's James Wenzel trying to hang on to the inside as Tyler Gary tries to run the high line out of 2.
See what happens. They make their way onto the back straightaway. This track just 0.6 of a mile long. Not a lot of length to this racetrack. It's certainly wide in the corners, but you don't have a lot of real racing room in the corners. You're pretty much up against that outside wall. If you want to pass, you're down underneath, and that's about as far as you can go. You see Pfeffer right there, P5. Tyler Gary right behind. James Wenzel, Blake Bottom side by side for 7th.
We'll see if they can sort it out right now, as Bottoms has what we think will be the preferred line all night long, trying to make it work on the outside. James Wenzel trying to hang tough on the bottom, but just so much momentum that you carry with that extra banking. Going to be really tough there for Wenzel on the bottom. If he can slot in front of Ryan Doucette, which it looks like he's going to be able to do, but not quite yet. They're going to hang him tough right now on the outside right now.
Boyd Hogan remains on the pit lane after being involved in that opening lap crash. He has fallen numerous laps down, trying to get the damage fixed on that machine. No fast repairs for these guys. So you get damage, you're stuck with it the rest of the night. And Omar Diallo feeling that pain for the lead. Here comes Tucker Minter underneath Omar Diallo in turn number 3. They'll be side by side back to the straight.
You mentioned the speed that he's shown. As I think Diallo got loose on the exit of 4, so that will allow Minter to take the lead. But that's impressive, I think, in a few different ways. The first that Minter was able to drive through, around, yellow flag out. That's Michael Bumgardner and Kevin King that are involved in this. And Joel Blewett, I think, got a piece of this as well. But I was going to make the point that Tucker Minter making that pass on the inside is especially impressive, given that most of the banking, or at least the greatest amount of banking here at Indianapolis Raceway Park, is on the outside of the racetrack, right up next to the wall. So if you can make it work on the inside without some sort of slide job, you have a really, really strong piece. I think that bodes well for Tucker Minter tonight.
Contact between Michael Bumgardner and Matt Forkapa to bring out the caution flag. Let's take a look. This is heading into turn number 1. These two side by side.
You can see right there, it looks like Fort Kappa maybe trying to either slot in line just a little early or thought there was a little contact right there, but no doubt about it, Fort Kappa moves up, turns right on the straightaway, and Bumgarner did an amazing job to make it better than it was. He didn't get on the outside wall. He didn't hit anything until, I believe that's Joel Blewett who came on by. You can see Bumgarner sliding through right there, does an incredible job keeping it out of the wall, throws on the brakes, and not sure. I mean, they make contact, but I don't know if that's terminal with a little bit of how that contact worked right there. So it'll be interesting to see if Bumgarner is still fast after that.
I would think they'd be okay. Matt Forkapa did come over and apologize for the contact there. Tried to just slot in line behind Bumgarner and instead got turned around as a result. Had a couple come on to pit road. Jake Nichols, Joel Blewett, they all come on to pit road. Brian Blackford, as well as Timmy Holmes and some others, as we are under the caution flag already for the second time tonight. 140 laps. We're already 13 laps through it now with these two cautions. And James, this kind of goes right in hand with, well, if we're going to make it one stop, you're going to need a lot of caution flags. We're getting them right now.
Yeah, just really hard to play this. I don't necessarily mind the stops from some of the drivers. If you're in the back of the field, never a bad idea to take the punt and just see if it makes a difference. Officially, drivers have 14 laps on their tires, so they've not come down pit road yet. But, you know, if you're somebody like a Brian Blackford or a Jake Nichols, where you just haven't had a lot of luck your way and have gotten caught up in incidents, may as well come down, fix the damage, get some fresh rubber, and see if it makes a difference.
Should be getting just one lap to green here this time by. Nope. Light's going to stay on for another lap on the pace car, and I believe it's because of the lapped car, technically speaking, of Boyd Hogan. Shane Williamson is now back in the session. He is on pit road trying to get back rolling. So we'll get a restart with about 16 laps complete here in this race.
I have to wonder, this is kind of how this race, I think, talking to a lot of drivers, Jacob, that this was what they thought was going to play out, that there were going to be a lot of these bursts, these short runs, which, you know, you'll have to see on short tracks here in the sim, but I don't think anybody went into this anticipating that things are really going to play out and have these very long green flag runs. I think everybody kind of went into this knowing that tight confines here. We saw it in the real life truck series as well, that these trucks, there's very although this track's wide, there's very little room in terms of the racing groove. There's going to be a lot of fighting over that, especially with these restarts and how difficult it is to try and pass here.
So Tucker Minter on the front row this time. He was on the front row for the last restart as well. He was on the outside in second. Now he's in the lead. Diallo will be on the outside. Then you got Falkingham, Jordy Lopez Jr., and Christopher Pfeffer, your top five. Green flag back in the air, 16 laps complete.
Minter got a good launch on that restart, clears Diallo by maybe a truck length or two. Here comes Falkingham to his inside. Jordy Lopez looking to the outside of Falkingham to try and draw even down the backstretch. I'm wondering maybe if at least right off the restart, if the middle might be the lane with the most grip. I imagine that top line will come in as more drivers take to it over the course of this race. But for now, it seems like there's speed in that middle lane, at least more than I anticipated coming into tonight.
So we've got some trouble in the back of the field here, James. Caution's out. Trouble on the racetrack. We'll assess that first. Sounds like somebody got loose and saved it. We'll get a replay here, figure out exactly what happened. In the way back of the field, there was an issue involving trying to get people in line where they were supposed to be. With Kyle Myers and Shane Williamson, black flags were given out, but obviously now we're under caution. So we'll take a look and see what's up.
I believe it was Kyler Wynn, I think, that was responsible for the yellow.
We'll take a look. We'll find who done it, and then we'll look at it. Here we go. That's the 81. So here's Wynn toward the back of the field. Gets turned by Brian Blackford. And that's our third caution.
I didn't even think there was contact there, to be honest. I thought that Wynn just got loose. I'll cross-check that, but looked like that was a single-car incident, sort of like what we saw with Timmy Holmes.
Looks like everybody, for the most part, will stay out under this caution. We'll step aside, go to a break. 20 laps are complete here from Indianapolis Raceway Park. Tucker Minter, your leader. You're watching FTF.GG. Back here from Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. Glad to have you with us. Jacob Pitts, James Pike, Blake McCandless with you. 22 laps are complete. We're half a lap away from getting this race back under the green flag. Tucker Minter is your leader. 3 cautions so far. We've still got a long way to go here in this race. So far, nobody officially out of the race. Boyd Hogan, though, is some 20 laps down on pit road with a meatball flag and a broken race car. So here's Tucker Minter and Omar Diallo on the front row, getting set to go. 23 laps complete on the green flag. We're back underway from IRP.
Minter with another good restart. Falkingham, though, to the inside of Diallo, but Diallo again using the banking on the high line to get a good enough run down the back straightaway to stay even with Falkingham. And as they go into 3 and 4, Diallo will continue to wind the motor up, keep the momentum high, and clear Daniel Falkingham to maintain second. Now, big move from Jordan Lopez Jr., who will trade lanes with Falkingham at 1 and 2. Falkingham goes up top. Lopez tried to go to the inside, didn't have enough momentum, single file through the top 4.
Jordan Lopez Jr. trying to get some redemption for him. He had a really fast truck at Michigan 2 weeks ago before he got turned by Andrew Navarro. Just incidental contact trying to push him down the back straightaway. Got that 4 around, got involved in a couple more wrecks late as cautions breed cautions, and he finished outside the top 20, I don't believe, on the lead lap. I believe he finished 1 lap down in that race. So trying to rebound here and keep the momentum going.
See them roll along here out of turn 4, still side by side, close battling, both in front of and behind Michael Cozy Jr. You can see there on your screen right there, Christopher Pfeiffer, Blake Bottoms going side by side. I imagine that the bottom groove is working a little bit better than I thought it would coming into tonight. We see some drivers move down there, and it's tough to pass there on the bottom, but I've been impressed by a couple of moves that I've seen off of some of these restarts where drivers are really able to kind of make that middle to lower line. They're able to stave off and even make a couple moves if that truck on the outside isn't handling so well. So at least faring a little bit better than I thought we would see at this point, but you can still see running side by side, both drivers going to lose a decent amount of time.
Could be an option later on in this race if we do get a late race restart and get it down on the bottom. Just kind of send it on in there and see what you can get out of it. Some side-by-side further on back through the field. The first battle, Blaze Crawford in the 4, and then the 9 of Colton Salick side-by-side back here. This is for 12th and 13th.
Beginning to wonder if we might be hitting the transition point where the high line has more speed, and I'm curious to see whether or not that's dependent upon the length of a green flag run or the amount of rubber in the racetrack. I don't know if we totally got the answer to that question yet, but for what it's worth, seems like Colton Salick is able to hang with Blaze Crawford a little bit better on the outside than he might have been able to some 5 to 10 laps ago. I think you can say the same for Matt Forcappa and Tommy Gossett, who are to the outside of Casey Tucker. That battle for 16th, 17th, and 18th a little bit further back.
Nice battling throughout the middle part of the field, but Tucker Minter, he is out far on his lonesome. The gap is 1.5 seconds between first and second. Diallo holding down the 4th there in second. Falkingham another 0.5 seconds back in third. Jordan Lopez Jr. within striking distance for that 3rd spot. But we'll keep it back here where these guys are side by side. They make their way off turn number 2.
And I think you can see Minter really taking advantage of how much having clean air on your nose is going to matter. We've seen in these trucks, especially, and I was quite privy to it, even last year for the Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series, whether it was Watkins Glen, Richmond, you think of kind of these tracks that are pretty flat. Having that clean air is just so important when everybody, especially as we've continued to run this setup, this build, this tire model for a number of years, the speed between all of these trucks is closer than it's ever been. So any little advantage you can get is something pretty significant, and that's why not only do you see how much Tucker Minter is able to pull out to the lead, but as he walks away, the same in turn happens for Omar Diallo. He's got about 1.5 seconds. He's got a decent amount of clear air on the nose of his 23. You can see the difference it's making for him. So I think that's why qualifying has become so important with these shorter race lengths and having track position, because even having clean air, especially at these flatter race tracks with these trucks, has become pretty paramount.
And qualifying is important, but it doesn't always mean everything, James, just because, I mean, we saw it there with Timmy Holmes crashing it on lap 1. We've seen it with other guys even later on in the race where just contact happens, you get the short end of the stick, and you wind up either on a bad strategy or with some damage falling through the field. Good qualifying position helps, but it doesn't always solve all the issues.
Yeah, I think there are a few ways you could look at that. The first, we can look at the fact that Tucker Minter is a 10th faster than everyone else in this field right now and say that qualifying matters to a point, but I think it also isn't impossible to make your way through this field if you've got a good truck. Cases in point, Blake Bottoms is up 5 spots from where he started. Michael Cozy Jr. is up 6 spots from where he started, as is Justin Knobloch, as is Garrison Hogan, and Tommy Gossett is up 11 spots from where he started. Timmy Pacioli is up from 31st to 19th. So it's possible to make a charge if you have a good truck, but ultimately I do think that your winner and your top drivers, you're going to want the track position pretty early on, I think.
Well, and some of those guys, at least in Holmes' case, he has pitted and has taken tires, so that's perhaps part of the reason that he is, or no, you said Pacioli, because Holmes is still in 27th. So yeah, Pacioli, he has not taken tires yet. Too many Timmys in this field, getting confused between them. But right now, we're almost 40 laps through this race, and James mentioned Michael Cozy Jr. He's up in that 8th spot, and Blake, a different spotter on top of the booth this week. Davin Cornelius, usually the spotter for the number 99. He realized late last night that, oh wait, eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series is tomorrow. I can't be there, so up off the bench, here comes Travis Brown.
Well, and not only that, he shouted him out at the beginning of the race when they had that wreck right in front of him. It was hard to see. He said, I got the best spotter in the game that slowed him down and prevented him from running over, I believe it was Colton Salick or Justin Knobloch a little bit earlier. So spotters doing some work up there. And Cozy, one of your biggest movers, has gotten inside the top 10. Blake Bottoms has made up 5 spots since the drop of the green flag from 11th to 6th. Cozy up from the 14th starting spot to currently running in that 8th position. So been a solid solid opening couple of laps from somebody in Michael Cozy Jr., Jacob, that loves these short tracks, and he feels like these are the opportunities that he can take to really gain some points on the rest of this field.
Well, and Cozy's had a solid run all season long. Kind of sort of a misstep last week at Michigan. He was able to get himself close to a top 10 finish. Other than that, he's been in the top 10 pretty much all season long, looking to get back to contender. Things didn't go quite the way that him or his team, Altus Esports, wanted it to go when they got to contender a season ago. This time around, I think the focus might be on the contender series a little bit more. It seems like they've got 25 trucks in this qualifying iRacing series. Everywhere we go, we see a bunch of them no matter the split, and we'll see how many of them can make it through the cut line and make it to contender and hopefully have a shot at making the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series by the time contender is done.
If you want a good marker as to the consistency of Michael Cozy in this second round, at least so far in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series for 2022, his drop right now sits at 25 points. The only other people in the top 20 right now that have a drop that would be higher, Parker White and Jonathan Delaney, both of them have already won races in round 2. So Cozy, yes, maybe not quite the out-and-out speed that he would like, but as consistent a driver as you will find up to this point in round 2. We know a lot of things can change, but I think that does say something pretty big about his ability to knock out finishes and post up big points.
Nice little battle for 22nd back there. Tanner Love, Thomas Keene in the thick of that. Keene has already made a pit stop tonight. Everybody around him has not. Keene is the first guy that is on any sort of fresher tires. He pitted under that first caution flag, which was on lap 2, so not much of a tire advantage, a whopping 2 laps, but it's better than nothing right now, and that's what he's got to work with.
One driver I'm looking at, I'm kind of surprised that we've seen them fall a little bit further back, is Kevin King right now. Currently running in the 19th position. Was up there in about 14th or so. Had made some ground, really early ground, with a lot of short run speed right now. But at least from what I can see, Jacob just looks really loose, not able to carry that same center speed through the center of the corner. You can see how much even Daniel Smallwood, the ground that he's able to make up right there. So this is where we've kind of seen these drivers. They want these long runs to come in, so if they do have a little bit of speed underneath the hood, they can start showing them a little bit. And right now, we're starting to see that there is a pretty big difference in the speed of some of these trucks, because Kevin King and other members on the team, really great short run speed, but right now it looks like they're struggling just a little bit on the long run.
Good side-by-side battle. Again, that's 19th on the racetrack. Smallwood to the inside. Thomas Keene waiting right in line there. Same with Jake Nichols, Tanner Love. They're all trying to get by that number 29. Here comes Smallwood to the inside. Washes up a little bit, trying to find that grip on the bottom of the racetrack. They'll remain side-by-side off turn 4. 50 laps are complete this time.
And where does Thomas Keene decide to go? Does he have a say in who takes this battle for position? Does he have a say in maybe taking it himself? You look at him a little bit, he's thinking about trying to go 3 wide as you get a good on-board look from Kevin King here. But you see how tough it is to get going off the corner, because you just don't have a lot of banking. There are a lot of cases where you want to get on the throttle and want to get on the throttle and want to get on the throttle. But if you do it too quickly, you end up like Timmy Holmes and your race is effectively over, which is a huge shame for him, given that he qualified outside poles. So you don't want to do that to yourself either. And getting around IRP well, especially in the long run, is just finding the balance and finding the right amount of pressure to apply on the throttle on corner exits. They just about wrecked there. There was contact between Thomas Keene and Jake Nichols, but Keene gathers it up. That's just going to space things out a little bit as Smallwood completes the pass on Kevin King, so you swallow it up to 19.
Yeah, that was scary. They get it sorted out for the moment. Now here comes that 51 looking to the inside. That's Tanner Love. Brian Blackford on the outside. Just in front of them is Jake Nichols in that 91. They'll go side-by-side back here. That is back for the 23rd position.
Oh, and Blackford hits the wall hard off of turn number 2, and I think that's just a slight misjudgment there that he tried to get in the gas, and that wall just snuck up on him a little bit. You could see a lot of damage on the right side of that truck. Blackford, somebody, at least in this qualifying iRacing series, who I think is just kind of taking what comes to him. Hasn't been blessed with a lot of great starts, but certainly not the type of mistake you would expect to see out of him, because I do not believe there was any contact there. Just try to open up the wheel and just try to take a little too much there off of turn number 2.
Got a little too high. Let's go downstairs. Justin.
Thank you, Jacob. Looking at the times of these tires, they're about, 40 laps or so that they've actually put any green flag wear on them. They're about, I'd say, 6-7 tenths for some of the front leaders to a full second off pace right now. They do have to make a pit stop if this thing does go green, so it'll be interesting to see when these guys finally pull the trigger. They could pull it at any point from here until about, I'd say, they could probably make it up until about 20 laps to go, but we'll see how it goes. They're all going to be looking out to see if there's going to be a caution, of course. If they get a caution and they get trapped a lap down, of course, that's going to end the race, so we'll see what happens.
Is there a point, Justin, that if we get a caution at a certain point, everybody's just going to say the heck with it and come down onto pit road, or are we going to see them just try and stay out and try and save and then not have to pit at all?
Pit window's open right now, Jacob. If we get a caution right now, they're all coming in. I can pretty much guarantee you that.
There you have it. Justin Malillo, thank you very much. Down on pit road, you're looking at the battle for third. Jory Lopez Jr. has patiently reeled in Daniel Falkingham and is trying to pick his way around that number 39.
Just looking at lap times here, it's been relatively even the last few laps, but that's also because Lopez doesn't have any ground to gain. But before Falkingham and Lopez got tied together, Lopez was clicking off somewhere in the ballpark about half a tenth to a full tenth on Falkingham, which means a little bit more here than it would at most places, given how much smaller the track is. But with worn tires and with not a lot of track that you can realistically use to pass somebody, it's the question that we'll have to wait for is whether or not Jordy Lopez Jr. will try and use the bumper, or whether or not he's going to get an opportunity via a mistake or a slip up to make the pass clean.
When you see it, looks like, is that a little bit of damage, or is that the design? I guess that's the design on Jory Lopez Jr. truck. At first I looked at it and thought it was damage, but the more I look at it, the more I think that's just the truck. It didn't quite ding up that right rear quarter panel or anything, but Jory Lopez Jr. Still in the tire tracks. Now Falkingham looks to maybe start to pull away a little bit from that 4, and Tyler Gary is slowly but surely trying to reel them in behind him.
I think it's just something with all the Logitech Altus Esports trucks right now that are all kind of making up ground. You see Lopez trying to make up some ground right there. Michael Cozy Jr.'s caught up to Christopher Pfeiffer right there. That's a battle for 7th. And even Ryan Doucette, who was a couple positions behind Cozy at the start of that restart, has made up some ground and is now one truck behind his teammate. So I think the Logitech Altus Esports cars, or trucks, I guess I should say, showing once again how good they have been, how that long run speed has been something that they've been really keen on all season long, as Lopez once again trying to look a little bit low, get a little bit of clean air on the left nose of that machine. And also this is where things can shake up as we approach halfway. That pit strategy could come into play right here as they're down to you, Justin.
What?
Pit stops.
We just got one truck down on pit road. It was Timmy Holmes. He got lapped. Joe Blewett came down a couple laps ago. He was also lapped. Basically, all the guys that again lapped are taking their pit stop now.
And
I was listening.
Those guys.
I was listening to the radio between Jordy and Falkingham. Jordy was like, "Can I just go around and try and catch Omar?" But it doesn't look like that's actually happening here.
Yeah, Falkingham just going to remain out in front. Joe Blewett, by the way, he pitted. He's parked the car. He is done for the night right now. It looks like he will finish in that 29th position. He is some 56 laps ahead of Williamson, 58 ahead of Boyd Hogan if they get back onto the racetrack and get rolling. But they're running out of time to do that. Timmy Holmes is still in the box as well down on pit road. He has pitted already before this green flag stop now, as we are just shy of the halfway point here from Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. Tucker Minter, your leader. Omar Diallo, 2.5 back in second. You have to go 2 more back to Falkingham. Then Joy Lopez Jr., Tyler Gary, your top 5. Blake Bottoms, Christopher Pfeiffer, Michael Cozy Jr., Ryan Doucette, and James Wenzel rounding out the top 10. Got a good battle forming for the 11th spot. Justin Knobloch, Colton Salick. This is back in P11.
One of the best battles on the track at this point, if you maybe exclude the group of Tommy Gossett, Casey Tucker, Steve Pacioli and company a little bit further back in the field. So we'll keep our eyes on this battle and on James Wenzel just ahead of this bunch. Looking at the lap times, Wenzel was a little bit quicker, but Knobloch is sliding back towards the clutches of Salick. And now this might be a question of who's done a better job maintaining their tires over the course of this green flag run. And potentially, if anyone decides to come down pit road and thinks they can't make it all the way, I think sooner rather than later would be the time to do that.
Just past the halfway point here from Indianapolis Raceway Park, and as we cross that halfway point, it's time to bring you the iRacing Midway Race Break. We didn't forget this week. Brought to you by iRacing. iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Tucker Minter remains your leader. Omar Diallo in second. Daniel Falkingham third. Jordy Lopez Jr. in fourth. Tyler Gary in fifth. Then Blake Bottom sixth. Christopher Pfeiffer in seventh. Michael Cozy Jr. in eighth. Ryan Doucette ninth. And James Wenzel rounds out the top 10. James?
Justin Knobloch currently runs in the 11th spot, 12th. That's where you'll find Colton Salick. Blaze Crawford runs in 13th, 14th. Belongs to Garrison Hogan. Matt Forcappa rides in the 15th spot. 16th is where you'll find Tommy Gossett. Casey Tucker currently holds the 17th position. 18th is where you'll find Timmy Pancioli. Daniel Smallwood is 19th, and Jake Nichols runs 20th.
Running 21st with a little bit of damage is Tanner Love. Thomas Keene is running in 22nd. Kevin King has fallen down to 23rd spot. 24th is Brian Blackford. Next to last truck on the lead lap is Michael Bumgarner in 25th. Then you have Kyler Wynn trying to stay on the lead lap in 26th. Kyle Myers 2 laps down, runs in the 27th position. Timmy Holmes is parked it on pit road. He sits 10 laps down. He is 28th. Joel Blewett is 29th, but is out of the server. So is Shane Williamson in 30th, and Boyd Hogan both sitting on pit roads getting repairs. They are 69 and 71 laps down, respectively.
This concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 200,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scanned tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. 65 laps to go here from Indianapolis Raceway Park. We'll head to a break. Tucker Minter, still your leader. We're back after this. You're watching the eNASCAR Qualifying iRacing Series on FTF.GG. 58 laps to go here at IRP. Tucker Minter leads the way. That's Kevin King that he's lapping coming off turn number 2. That'll give us just 22 trucks on the lead lap. We do have one truck on pit road. It's Kyler Wynn. He's already one lap down, getting service on that truck and getting it back out onto the racetrack. That number 82. Back down, rolling on pit road. Closest battle on the racetrack right now. How about P11? Knobloch and Salick are still going at it back here.
It's that whole bunch, that whole group too. They really haven't left each other. It's Knobloch, Salick, Crawford, Hogan for Kappa. There's Kyler Wynn just slide into the back of that battle there. You saw him pass him on the left-hand side of your screen, but with a lap traffic, maybe shake this up.
Kyle Myers there as well in that 81. He's a couple laps down, just trying to stay up and out of the way. It's tough when you come to a track where the place where the slow cars go is also the fastest part of the racetrack. Just to get out of the way, they want to go up to the wall, but that's also the same line that a lot of these guys want to run, and it makes navigating lap traffic pretty treacherous around these parts.
It really does. It makes it so difficult right there. As you see one truck, it looks like coming onto pit road. A little bit of damage to 96, off of pit road rather. Thought he was on the opposite end of the racetrack. So 96 will make his way back out onto the track.
Frankenstein, that truck backs to get back together. He is only 70 some laps down. As now truck on pit road, that's Tommy Gossett. He was on the lead lap. He'll follow lap down coming onto pit road. He was within striking distance of Tucker Minter, the leader, but he makes the call to come onto pit road for the first time tonight and get service on that machine. And we're getting closer and closer to the point where these guys are going to have to make their first and likely only green flag stop. They have multiple sets of tires down on pit road if they choose to use them, but at this point, I don't think tires matter too much in the grand scheme of things to really make it worth strategizing about tires. You're just focused on making enough fuel to get to the end of the race, and that's that.
Perhaps. I'll be curious to see if anybody else decides to make the move down pit road, but it seems like everybody else is just going to try and stretch it. You think maybe with the cautions, everybody's got enough fuel? I wonder if that maybe is a question that Justin Malillo can answer for us.
I don't think so, James. Back to you.
Now, the thing is, we don't know if he was saying, I don't think so, to I don't know the answer to the question, or I don't think so, to they can't make it on fuel. I'll take it was the latter. But, I mean, we'll find out. And I would still expect everybody to make a stop. Thomas Keene on pit road, as well as Daniel Smallwood. They're both one lap down. So they make the call to come on to pit road.
See, Kevin King also makes his way down as well. So, this is where the risk lies in this race. If you have great track position, if you're in a really good spot, the last thing you want to do is pit too early and then trap yourself a lap down if a caution were to come out. So I think you're going to see a lot of your front runners up here in the top 10, especially because this is a point series. Winning, it doesn't really give you a bonus other than 5 extra bonus points for that win. And again, this is a situation where it can hurt you a lot to pit early and get trapped, and perhaps even to lose a spot or two under this green flag run. So I imagine your top 10 still going to be a little bit of time before we see them come down, but everybody, as they start to get lapped, they really have nothing to lose right there. You see Michael Cozy Jr., it'll slowly start to trickle his way up to the front of the field, where I believe Tucker Minter probably going to be your last taker, if I had to imagine, on the pit road.
Let's go down to Justin Malillo. Got some folks in the top 10 making their way to pit road.
Most of the guys that I've seen on pit road, Pfeiffer, Bottoms, they've taken 4 tires. It looks like Cozy 4 tires. Tyler Gary's rolling his way down into his pit box now. Wenzel, he's taken 4 tires. Most everybody here has taken 4 tires. The only outlier that I've seen, actually 2 of them, Jake Nichols and Brian Blackford, have taken 2.
And those guys pitted 80-some laps ago, so that was under our second caution when they made their call to come onto pit road. So that's why they've taken 2. Not at this juncture, nobody's taken 2 tires yet, and I wouldn't really expect it just because it's been that long on these set of tires. You're going to have to pit at some point. Jordy Lopez Jr., Ryan Doucette, they're all on pit road. So Tucker Minter, the only guy in the Altus Esports camp staying out on the racetrack for the time being, is now Jordy Lopez Jr. makes his way to pit road. Justin?
Again, everybody else that's been coming down 4 tires, everybody looks like Lopez is putting his right sides up. He might be taking. I really want to see somebody try 2 tires, though. I think if anybody in the top 5 wants to maybe gain a little bit of time on Tucker Minter, or if people are looking at maybe possibly gain some track position, I think 2 tires would be a viable option, but still nobody's taking it at this time.
Casey Tucker, Timmy Pastrioli make their way onto pit road, as 4 tires has been the call throughout the entire field. 6-7 trucks have stayed out. Make it 9, I guess, including Blackford. Everybody else has made their way onto pit road. There you see Tucker pulling away. Here comes Tanner Love onto pit road. So you've got 6 guys that have not stopped, period, tonight. And 2 more that have made a stop, but are going to need to stop one more time before this thing is said and done, as everybody on the lead lap still is pretty spread out. There you see Tucker Minter. That's Kyle Myers in front of him. A couple of lap cars behind him, including Casey Tucker. Tucker's going to look to the inside here, potentially in turn number 1, try and unlap himself the hard way here. Brian Blackford, currently the first truck, 1 lap down, although he hasn't pitted. Here comes Colton Salick onto pit road.
And again, this is where things can get really tricky, is you have a lot of trucks who are on those fresh tires. They're carrying significantly more speed than some trucks that are kind of risking it right now, like Garrison Hogan, Justin Knobloch. And as I say that, Hogan going to make his way onto pit road. So this is when you're just hoping you want to complete this cycle if you've already come down. And now your race leader, Tucker Minter, onto pit road.
Let's go downstairs to Justin.
I just saw Colton Salick pull away. He took 2 tires. He bit, and now we've got the leaders in. Tucker Minter, Omar Diallo, Daniel Falkingham, all down pit road here. Let's see if any of them are going to take 2 tires or if it's going to be 4 across the board for everybody. It looks like 4 for everybody. And now just Justin Knobloch's left on track, and Jake Nichols and Brian Blackford. Only 3 people have not made their pit stop yet. Tucker Minter's down in the way. Daniel Falkingham's down in the way. They took 2 tires. There we go.
There you have it, and look at the gap coming off pit road. He is pretty close to Tucker Minter, all things considered. Probably the closest anybody has been to him since a restart. Let's see if he's able to maneuver and close in on Tucker Minter, or if Minter just is going to have too much speed and pull away. Falkingham's going to have to get by Tyler Gary and Jordy Lopez Jr. as well. But Minter comes back out, and when things cycle around, he should cycle back to be the leader. Knobloch and Nichols, 1 and 2, they both have to pit yet.
That's very... Go ahead, Jim.
2, and the question is going to be whether or not they lose that much time compared to all the folks who've already come down pit road. Tucker Minter slotted in nicely. He's got about a second on Tyler Gary, who cycled out to P4, albeit with 8 lap older tires than Minter and 2 lap older tires than Jordy Lopez Jr. So Gary, you would think, might fall a little bit, but a good rundown on pit road for him, and we'll see whether or not it pays off well. But yeah, all eyes on Jake Nichols, who's going to come down pit road now, I believe, or no, he was just really slow on the bottom. I thought he was going to make the move, but we should see him. We should see Knobloch shortly, and that should cycle Tucker Minter back to the race lead ahead of Gary and Jordy Lopez Jr.
Just have to wait and see. I heard Casey Tucker get over the radio and sounded like he was yelling at somebody, but
it was just a Knobloch. He moved up in front of Tucker, and Tucker was on fresher tires, and he was just like, what the heck, bro, pretty much. But it looked like no true contact, no issues there. Tucker will roll along.
Well, he's still mad. Casey Tucker's still mad. Look at this, 3 wide. That's Jordy Lopez Jr. Tyler Gary is 4th position. Kyler Wynn is a lap down. And around the outside, Jordy Lopez Jr. once 4th. He's going to go ahead and get it.
I think that goes exactly back to the point Blake was making a few laps ago, that the differences in speed between the drivers who have already come down pit road and the drivers who are still waiting to pit are significant enough here to where you could end up with an incident. Somebody could misjudge a corner entry, a corner exit, be that much slower or faster than someone else, and could bring out a yellow, which at this point probably wouldn't have much of effect on the field. If anything, it'd be a blessing for Knobloch or Nichols, but we'll just have to see how this pans out.
It may not be, though, just because I don't know if anybody's going to come on to pit road and take advantage of the tires. They may just decide track position is more important. Just stay out there and hang in there till the end. We're coming up on just 30 laps to go. Here from IRP, Knobloch leads. Nichols in 2nd. Tucker Minter is closing in, though. He's running a 2nd a lap faster than the 2 trucks in front of him, and closing in quickly, try and retake the lead and come out of here with a victory.
And imagine it won't be too difficult to do so. I mean, he can go to the bottom, he can go to the top, he can go just about anywhere with tires that are this different than everybody. As you see, Minter able to make it look relatively simple right there, and getting by Jake Nichols wasn't even a contest right there, and he'll pull out. He's now about 1.2 seconds faster than Knobloch per lap, so in about a lap or two, Minter should have the race lead. Again, a lot can happen, but a yellow flag needs to come out here. If you're Jake Nichols or Justin Knobloch, it needs to happen in the next couple of laps, or else the strategy is going to fall apart, and you have to be able to make it on fuel, too. I can't imagine that they can go much further on fuel as well.
We're inside 30 to go. Minter has taken 2nd. He's within half a second and closing quick. It's down to 0.2 of a second. He may have the lead before they get to the start-finish line. Tucker Minter dives in into turn number 3, back on the gas, and he is long gone. Tucker Minter retakes the lead with 27 to go.
He's had the best truck all night. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. The question is going to be whether or not he can keep it clean for the final 35-ish or 25-ish laps or so as we work our way towards lap 140. But this is very much in his hands, and it would be circumstantial things that I think at this point would keep him from going to victory lane.
He has yet to go to victory lane this season. Has a couple of good finishes in there. Struggled at Pocono. But 2 top 5 finishes this season. One at Mid-Ohio, one at Michigan 2 weeks ago. And perhaps barring the dirt track at Bristol in 4 weeks' time, 2 races' time, the rest of the schedule, I think, pretty friendly for somebody like Tucker Minter. Darlington in 2 weeks. We end the season in just 6 weeks at Texas. So the end of the season is already almost here. Ready or not, here it comes. We've only got 3 to go after tonight, just 6 weeks of the season. And for somebody like Tucker Minter, a win tonight would be huge as far as making life easy going into these last 3 races, where maybe he could afford to have a mediocre finish, maybe top 20, not a DNF or anything outside the top 30, similar to his result back at Pocono. Here's a Hornet's Nest back here. This is with Nichols, who has yet to pit, Michael Cozy Jr., Blake Bottoms up there. Cozy and Bottoms, they have already made their stop.
Well, I'm looking at the implications kind of and where this sets up for points. Minter's had a couple of great finishes, 2 third-place finishes and a win. You have to consider that you'll carry a drop, or you'll drop your lowest race through the second round as well. He already has 1 race with just 8 points, so kind of already hit that more than likely for Tucker Minter. But these wins, these top 5s add up so very quickly, where many of the drivers that are going to be right around that 20th, they're fighting for top 10s. They're trying to salvage some 15ths out of this. But some drivers that have done a great job here that can pad a lot of their gaps should they see this thing through and things stay as they are for the final 21 laps. Tucker Minter is one. Obviously, Jordy Lopez right now sitting 16th in the points, just 3 points above the cut line with a drop. This will go a long way to helping him as well. Michael Cozy Jr. In 18th, just behind his teammate. Tucker Minter right now sitting in 7th. So there's a lot of great runs to speak of, and of course you'll have to, reference with the other split to see exactly where everybody shakes out. But really the only run that I can see that is just something not to write home about is Boyd Hogan, who's had some incredible runs this year, has one win to speak of, but unfortunately you talk about drops, this is likely going to be one of them for Boyd Hogan, and it was unfortunate for him. He really never saw it coming on lap number 1, had no chance to avoid it.
Justin Knobloch has done everything but crash. He's bounced it off the wall. He almost got run over by Blake Bottoms down the front straightaway. He is clinging on to dear life, and now he's going to throw in the towel and come onto pit road. So here comes Knobloch. Staying out did not work out, and he will finally pit. And as far as looking at lap times, Tyler Gary faster than the two guys in front of him. Problem is he's some 6 seconds back on Tucker Minter. And about a second and a half back on Jordy Lopez Jr. So Tyler Gary going to need a lot of help. How about the battle for 4th, though? It's Falkingham and Omar Diallo.
Omar Diallo, who's had a very solid top 5 truck all night. To be fair, Falkingham has too. So if anything, you want to make this pass, but you want to make sure that you don't end up losing anything. Getting into Falkingham, spinning yourself out, getting yourself into the fence. It's weird in that there's almost more to lose than there is to gain as they work their way towards the outside of lap traffic. That's Brian Blackford that they pass. And Falkingham, I think, this time is going to let Diallo go, and Omar Diallo now moves himself into the 4th position.
And he's going to try and catch Tyler Gary. Gary is stuck behind Thomas Keene. He asked him nicely to get out of the way, and now I don't know if Gary's going to be so nice about it. Now Keene comes down to the bottom, gets out of the way, and Tyler Gary will maintain that 3rd spot, but he lost a considerable amount of time to Jordy Lopez Jr. in front of him. And Gary's going to have to try and hope something happens in order to have a shot to go to victory lane. He's had some good runs as of late, but sure he'd love to have a shot to go to victory lane if there were to be a late race caution. We're inside 20 to go. We're inside 15 to go here at IRP. And it's been nothing but Tucker Minter all night tonight.
Yeah, and it's just taking advantage of having track position and just being able to execute, getting through everybody as he should. He's had some really fast trucks here these first couple of weeks, and when you get everything to work together, it's just something to see somebody who has a lot of experience in this type of competitive situation, and he's just been able to put it all together tonight. Just has to do it for 13 more laps.
Running out of time for anything goofy to happen, but right now, just domination for Tucker Minter. And he was somebody that showed some speed last year in the 2nd round. Couldn't quite make it the distance to contender, but he's back this time around, and he has been so strong throughout not only these first 4 weeks, first 4 races of this season, but also round 1 of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series, that it is no surprise to see how well he has performed and almost cementing himself as somebody that will be in the contender series coming in later on this year.
I think the interesting thing about this crop of qualifying series drivers in round 2 is that it seems like for the past few years, we've had rookies, we've had new faces that have come in and dominated a particular year en route to eventually earning Coke Series berths. And this year's crop of drivers in the qualifying series, I don't really think has a lot of that. Joey Brown, once upon a time a Coke Series driver back in the day, is trying to make his way back to it. But a lot of the drivers that are up there in points are drivers who have been at the stage before, who do have some experience, and they just made a few tweaks to try and make themselves a little bit better. And I think Tucker Minter's a perfect example of one of those. Remember, he's got 2 third place finishes. He's working off from Mid-Ohio and Michigan in his respective races. Now would add the win to this. That would mean that he's taking 34, and 40 points from the 3 counted races in this second round, and definitely seems like one of the drivers that should be in the mix for a top 20 spot. I think the more interesting thing, when we look at all this, Kyle Myers coming into tonight had 2 second place finishes at Pocono and Michigan under his belt, and did not participate in Ohio. So tonight's race is going to count as his worst race of the season. It is going to get tallied up in his final points total. And I think the big question is going to be, what kind of damage will he have, and how tough is it, given that he just got caught up in Timmy Holmes' mess at the beginning of this race. It very much has the feel of what might have been for Kyle Myers.
Yeah, and he obviously damaged for him, and then fell out of the session. He will unofficially finish in the 27th position. A lot of action going on right in front of our leader, trying to navigate through this lap traffic with 6 laps to go, getting by Kyler Wynn. They were 3 wide in front of him a couple of laps ago. Now he's got to get by Garrison Hogan, who's just up the road. He is on the lead lap in 16th. About to go 1 lap down if Minter can get to him here in these final, now 4 laps.
And again, not too much trouble. I think Minter's smart enough to know the last thing you need here is a caution. He has a huge gap to play with. I mean, 5 seconds is so much time that he can really afford to take his time here, just very smartly get around these drivers. This shouldn't be an issue for him. But going back to James's point there, I know when talking about young talent, I think if there's one driver, I think amongst this qualifying iRacing series that has the feel of a young driver who just comes in and dominates, I think if you look at some of the other splits, Parker White has been one that has really stuck out to me, that has been up front, the top 3 in just about every single race he's participated in, and somebody that I think we'll have to watch for certainly going forward into contender.
2 laps to go for Tucker Minter, as, oh my gosh, they are trying the best they can to wad him up. This is in front of the leader, Colton Salick, James Wenzel. This is for position. Matt Forkapa as well, Casey Tucker. It's a 4-pack fighting for position. Meanwhile, behind him, here comes Tucker Minter. White flag, 1 more lap to go for Minter here at IRP. They're trying to sort it out for position. These guys are going to have to go 1 more lap because they're in front of Tucker Minter. So we'll follow them around for 1 more 1/6 of a mile, but through turns 3 and 4, Tucker Minter dominating tonight at IRP, and he's going to come away with his first win of the round. Tucker Minter wins at IRP in race number 4 in round 2 of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. Here's the battle for 12th, headed down to turn number 3. Salick out in front. Forkapa drives it in deep, can't quite find the grip, and Salick's going to hold on to the spot. Maybe some contact. Yes, he'll finish out in front of Forkapa to end the race, and Tucker Minter will send Altus Esports to victory lane once again this season, this time at IRP.
He'll take that, I think. No complaints for Tucker Minter, and it's always important, I think, especially in this round, to have a win in your pocket. It is not an effective guarantee that you will be headed off to the Contender Series. It's not like the Coke Series where a win just about guarantees you into the playoffs unless other people win in the regular season like you do. Hello, Ray Alfalla. But we'll see how the rest of this pans out in this qualifying series. Wins usually are a good indicator that if you can get one at this level, regardless of whether or not it's the odd or the even split, you have a pretty good shot of making it into contenders.
Tucker Minter will burn it down right here on the front straightaway. We'll run through our finishing results here from IRP. Minter, your winner. Jordy Lopez Jr. in second, so a 1-2 for Altus Esports. Tyler Gary finishes 3rd. Omar Diallo 4th. Daniel Falkingham finishes 5th. Michael Cozy Jr. a good run from 14th on the grid to 6th. They'll finish in that 6th spot. Blake Bottoms in 7th. Christopher Pfeiffer in 8th. Ryan Doucette 9th. And Tommy Gossett, the biggest mover on the day, plus 18 from the drop of the green flag. He finishes in 10th, James.
Blaze Crawford finished in the 11th position. Colton Salek brought it home 12th. 13th went to Matt Forcampa. Casey Tucker came home in 14th. 15th was James Wenzel. Garrison Hogan was the last truck on the lead lap in 16th. 17th, the first truck one lap down, was Timmy Pancioli. Daniel Smallwood was 18th this evening. 19th went to Tanner Love. And Jake Nichols finished in the 20th position.
21st, one lap down, was Thomas Keene. Justin Knobloch finished in 22nd after his strategy call. 23rd was Kevin King. Kyler Wynn finished 2 laps down in 24th. Michael Bumgarner finished in 25th after an early incident. 26th was Brian Blackford. Kyle Myers in 27th. Timmy Holmes 28th. Joel Blewett 29th. Boyd Hogan finished 30th. And Shane Williamson rounded out your 31 truck field, Jacob.
Let's talk with some folks. How about? We've got all 3 tonight here from IRP. We'll begin with Tucker Minter. Domination doesn't even begin to describe how fast you were tonight and how much of a clinic you put on over the rest of the field. A statement win tonight from IRP.
Yeah, thanks guys for the broadcast. I don't know. I wasn't really looking forward to IRP, but I had a little hope after Richmond, and then it's been looking really good on the spreadsheet compared to my teammates. So I was feeling pretty confident going in, but I didn't know. You never know what it's really going to be like in the race, if you're going to have a bunch of yellows or long runs, where you're really going to see what happens.
Darlington coming up in 2 weeks' time. It's a track where we've been before in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series a season ago. So what are your thoughts going in? Obviously, the win helps a lot, so points crucial, but not as crucial. Now you've got that little bit of padding, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Darlington and hopefully having a good run there before we go to Bristol Dirt, which is going to be another real wild card on the season. I got second there last year in top split to Donnie, so I'm feeling pretty confident about Darlington. It's one of my favorite tracks, so it should be a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations on the race win tonight, domination, and best of luck in 2 weeks' time. And we head to Darlington.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And thanks to everybody at Altus, all our partners with VRS and Cube Controls, Logitech G, obviously. It's a lot of fun being on Altus, and it's fun when we have fast trucks.
That's Tucker Minter for Altus Esports going to Victory Lane tonight from Lucas Oil Raceway here at IRP. Now let's talk with our second place finisher, Jordy Lopez Jr. with James Pike.
Jordy Lopez brings it home, P2 and Jordy. After the way things have panned out the last few weeks, how satisfying was tonight's run for you?
Very satisfying. I'm glad that we're finally done with like plate tracks sort of race, and we're back to just like having the like driver put in more of the input. And after 2 bad races, I'm so happy to like finally get like top 2 again, and I'm trying to look forward to continue that streak for Darlington and for the rest of this season.
I think that begs the question. Then you're probably very excited for Darlington, and then maybe even the dirt at Bristol. Are there any?
So dirt is not like my strong suit. So I'm just hoping to get a really good finish for Darlington, and then kind of go a little bit comfortable going into that race. And yeah, man, I'm just trying to just get the best finish as I can for the next race, because I'm gonna go to a track that's not in my element of driving, unfortunately.
And after last year, especially for Logitech GLTC Sports, and the way qualifying and contender played out, 1-2 tonight for you and Tucker Minter, what's that say about the strength of the team right now?
We all work hard, man, and we had the speed for like Pocono and Michigan, but as you can see, like I got wrecked from the lead last race, and we just couldn't show it. It's just bad luck the last 2 races, but we have been working very hard. And I'm proud to be here.
Jordy Lopez Jr. with a strong finish. Runner-up this evening at Lucas Oil Raceway Park at Indianapolis. We slide from P2 to P3, where we promised this isn't Moon Car, but we have 2 Moon Car stalwarts. It's Tyler Gary, the driver, and Blake McCandless with the interview.
Well, Tyler Gary, I know it feels good to come up here, race your way through the field, and run in third, but what was it about tonight that just seemed to work well for you?
Honestly, just getting spots in the restarts, capitalizing, using the outside lane, rolling around people, getting a couple spots that way. Honestly, just like maintaining good speed, not burning my stuff up, just holding my own, and make sure I pit it at a good time.
Well, in rattling off these consistent finishes, I know the introduction to the season perhaps hasn't been as you would have hoped, but I know that these races really have to help you try to pick things up here. So what do you think this does for you going forward, looking at Darlington, Bristol Dirt, and Texas?
This helps big time. We've been struggling, getting good finishes, been getting damaged or getting wrecked in the last couple. So this definitely helps big time. First time up here. Good time, and good momentum builder into the next couple of weeks. I'm confident on dirt. I don't have many laps on Bristol Dirt, but I'm sure I can adapt and get used to it pretty quickly.
All right, Tyler. Well, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on finishing P3 tonight.
Thank you.
There you have it. Our top 3 interviews here from IRP. Darlington coming up in just a couple of weeks' time, and you know, we started out almost in a wreck fest of sort here, guys, and at the end of this deal, things turned out okay. We had a pretty solid green flag run at the end.
Had a lot of green flag racing in the end, but it's the lack of banking and the speed of Tucker Minter, the clean air that he had, that I think define this race. But those are all elements that I don't think are going to matter near as much when we get to Darlington in 2 weeks. And I feel pretty safe in putting down a bet now that we are not going to see as clean of a race at Darlington. Not just because it is the Lady in Black and the track too tough to tame, but also given where it sits in the calendar. A reminder that you take that race and then Bristol Dirt and Texas, and that's it. That's the end of round 2. So we're starting to get to the point where these drivers are going to have to pick it up. We get the halfway point of round 2 at lap 70 tonight. We cross the halfway point of tonight's race. So if you're not near the top 20, you don't necessarily have to be making your move immediately, but it's time to start picking it up just a little bit.
Last time we were at Darlington, I recall a truck getting space forced coming off of turn number 2. So not always the place where things are calm. The Lady in Black, that track can strike you in a hurry. That outside wall being so close to the racing line, it's not quite like IRP, Blake, where it's almost consistent where you are to the outside. You're all over the place running that up against the wall, back down, then back to the wall on corner exit. You've got plenty of opportunities to smack the outside wall.
You do, especially through 3 and 4. You have a little bit of freedom in terms of what lane you want to run, and if you want to duck down to the bottom and try to make some speed there. But the one thing I want to watch going forward is as these truck counts continue to kind of dwindle down. It's something that kind of I had to deal with last year, that if you are in around that 40th, 50th range right now, one thing you'll start to see is drivers will start to drop out as they think, well, maybe I don't have a chance to get into that top 20. That affects how difficult it is to try and make up points on the rest of your competitors. When wrecking out in race 1 would have netted you about 2 points, now it'll net you about 8. So watch for these drivers that are in that 30th, 40th range. You're really going to have to pick up their performance, because the amount of points that are to lose are less, since everybody gaining more points with a little bit of less participation. So I'm sure in these next 3 races, especially after this race, that may be something we'll talk about next couple weeks.
We'll just have to wait and see. A lot of fun from IRP tonight. Again, we are back in just 2 weeks' time from Darlington, right at the start of September 1st, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on FTF.GG. In the meantime, what's coming up on FTF.GG? Well, the iRacing Regional Short Course is back. It's here on FTF.GG. We're at Grandin Short at 9:20 on Monday night. ERL, that's done, so Wednesdays are wide open. SimCar is back on Thursday, a week from tonight, I believe 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time from Watkins Glen. The Barviso FTF Cup Series, that is back next Sunday from Daytona to end the season out. And we're back in 2 weeks' time from Darlington. For Justin Malillo on Pit Road, for Zach Johnson, our producer, and the guys with me, Blake McCandless, James Pike, I'm Jacob Hitz. Tucker Minter, your winner at Indianapolis Raceway Park. We'll see you at Darlington. Good night.